everyone. Okay, so for the last activity for our very first kind of introductory lab is introducing you to Google Earth Pro. And so this is slightly different from Google Earth because you can actually make these really neat cross sections and actually see actual like mountainsides within the cross sections that you make. And it's really neat. We'll use it several times throughout the semester. If you don't have a device that can download Google Earth Pro, aka a Chromebook, I suggest pairing up with a buddy who does have Google Earth Pro and at least seeing how they use it, seeing the whole kind of step-by-step breakdown, and then we can kind of facilitate other things from there. Okay, so first off, before using Google Earth Pro, I just want you to consider a sense of scale, right? So, for example, your fingernail is so much smaller than your body. Your fingernail, or the top of your head, is, a certain distance to the bottom of your foot than it is to, say, the nearest gas station, right? There's that sense of scale there. So I want you to consider that sense of scale when we're thinking of things that you may be familiar with. So like, for example, the first question here is wanting you to consider how far away, considering the center of the earth, the distance to the center of the earth, and then comparing that from San Francisco to Hawaii, you would just have to look up the distance from San Francisco to Hawaii in kilometers and compare those two distances and, kind of make that observation. And then considering the average depth of the seafloor, is that greater than the typical height of the continents? You can look up the average height of the continents around the world and, just kind of comparing those things, etc. And can you swim to the bottom of the continental shelf? And you might need to look up how deep our continental shelf is, or, the average continental shelf, and consider if you can actually swim down that far, that kind of thing. Lastly, you're going to use Google Earth Pro just to kind of get yourself oriented with it. Here's yet again another YouTube tutorial of showing you how to download and use Google Earth Pro. Here's a link to download it to your device, but I am just real quick going to open it up here and show it here as well. You'll see I've used this a lot, obviously, so I have a lot of kind of overlays on it, so let me see if I can turn those overlays off. Yes, I can. Okay, awesome. So, it kind of takes you around to where the world is. Let me move my face to the other side. Yeah, there we go. And you have a couple little buttons here. Kind of try to orient yourself with the software a little bit. So you can kind of play around with some of the different buttons. You can zoom in, you can zoom out. Notice how you can kind of see some little features along the seafloor of estimations or whatnot that we have. But the very first thing that I ask you to do in the lab is to create a cross-section of a somewhat relevant geological feature. And if you ever kind of get off kilter, you can always push that little N here in the top right, which just means north, and it will orient you back north and south. So like, for example, for me, I went to high school over in Danville, so Mount Diablo is a relevant geological feature for me. And so what you're going to do to create a cross-section is there are several ways to do it. I think a relatively easy way is to this little button here that kind of looks like, like that share symbol that we often see on social media, kind of looks like that. So you can add the path here. And this little guy pops up and you can give it a name. Okay, I can be like, okay, Mount Diablo. Oop, Mount Diablo. And then just click OK. So once you've given it a name, now you can, oh shoot, sorry, I totally did not do that correctly. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. You have to move it off to the side. And notice now how my cursor is like a little square, almost like a crosshairs kind of thing. And you can either click and drag if you're really good at drawing a straight line. I certainly am not. So you can just cancel it if it's not a line that you are happy with. And you can do just the same thing. Go to Add Path, and you can click on one side and simply click on the other side and it draws a straight line for you. It's pretty sweet. And then once you're done drawing your, going through your selected geological feature, you can click OK. And now I have my untitled path, but I can't see the cross section yet. So to do that, an easy way would be to go up to your toolbar here and go to Edit and Show Elevation Profile, and wabamaboo, there you go, right? Notice how my red arrow here is now kind of going across my feature, showing my heights and elevations and all the nooks and crannies in between. So once you've done that, you can take a screenshot of it and you can attach that to your lab. And then for the next part of the exercise, I simply want you to do something similar. You don't have to create a cross section though, so you can kind of exit out of that. But I want you to estimate or, oh boy, you can get the lengths or the widths of the Gulf of Mexico, the Atlantic Ocean, and the Pacific Ocean. The Pacific Ocean is huge, so it's going to be a little bit tricky. It might, cause you a little bit of frazzling, but basically you can just simply do the same thing. So say if I asked you for the length of the Gulf of Mexico, I could do add path. And, everyone's length is going to vary, but, depending on where you decide to start. But say I start from up here in Mississippi, I want to end down here in Mexico, and I just simply click OK. I guess you could do Show Elevation Profile, and the way that you could estimate the length then, see on the bottom of the elevation profile, there's the length in this case, kilometers. I think you can change the settings to make it be miles if you so choose. I think to do that, you just go up to File or maybe Google Earth Pro Preferences. Yeah, there you go. So you can change things to feet or miles or meters and kilometers. And it just gives you a really nice look at how long that feature actually is. So play around with the software, get comfortable with it. We will often use this several times throughout the semester. Again, if you don't have Google Earth Pro, if you're at State and you're using the machines in our lab room, then those do already have Google Earth Pro on them, or should. They did anyway. So hopefully that is all put together there. So if not, then work with a buddy. So with that, my dear friends, thanks so much for stepping through the lab with me, and I will go through everything at the very, when I come back, and we can go from there, okay? Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you later.